talk about the beautiful business of milk today, yeah. I got milk. Let's talk about milk. Oh yeah, baby, let's talk about the beautiful business of milk today.
This episode of Got Milk is sponsored by Shunya Agritech, the folks revolutionizing cattle nutrition with hydroponic green fodder. Visit their website at shunya.live for more details, or download the Shunya app from Play Store or App Store.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling hydroponic fodder in India.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and the big question is, can it really help solve India's massive fodder shortage? And, what does it mean for milk and meat production?
Big questions, yeah.
To get to the bottom of this, we're looking at a market analysis report from CEW.
Okay.
And also a white paper on GeoSmart GLCs from Shunya Agritech.
It's interesting to look at those two sources side by side because CEW really gives you the big picture overview.
Right.
And then Shunya kind of zooms in and gives you like a very specific strategy.
I like that. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, picture this. India has 15% of the world's livestock,
Wow.
on only 2.2% of the land.
That's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, and it's really no wonder that they have a massive fodder shortage. I mean, we're talking 32% deficit in green fodder alone.
Yeah, and that translates to a real impact on milk yields and meat yields.
Absolutely. It's not just about the numbers, right? Lower milk yields mean lower incomes for millions of dairy farmers.
Right. It's a critical situation.
Yeah.
And it's driven by a few factors, unpredictable weather patterns, which impact the traditional way that people cultivate fodder.
Mm-hmm.
And then, India is dealing with water scarcity and limited land availability.
Yeah, those are big problems.
Yeah.
So this is where hydroponics comes in.
Yeah.
Instead of relying on traditional farming methods, hydroponics allows you to grow plants in a controlled environment.
Okay.
And it doesn't even use soil, it uses nutrient-rich water.
Interesting. And we've heard of things like aeroponics and fogponics before.
Right?
Are those similar or?
They're all kind of in that same family of vertical farming.
Mm-hmm.
But for producing fodder on a large scale, it seems like hydroponics is really emerging as the leader.
Okay, so what are the benefits that make hydroponics a good fit for India?
Well, a couple of things. First, the growth cycle is so much faster. It's only 7 to 8 days.
Wow.
Which means you can have year-round production.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal for consistent supply.
Yeah, it is. And then it uses significantly less water than traditional methods.
Okay, that's a big plus in a place like India.
Absolutely. And get this, studies show that using hydroponic fodder can actually boost milk and meat yields by like 10 to 15%.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah.
What does that mean for, say, a small dairy farmer?
Well, for them, it could mean the difference between really struggling to make ends meet and having a thriving business.
So there's real potential there.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of potential, CEW estimates the market for small-scale hydroponic fodder units in India to be a whopping $3.2 billion US.
Wow, okay, that's not small.
Not at all. And they broke that down even further. They said there's potential for 3.6 million units focused on boosting milk yields for cattle and buffaloes.
Okay.
And then another million units dedicated to meat yield enhancement for sheep and goats.
So they really broke it down by the type of livestock.
Exactly. And they were very specific about, where they got these numbers from. They targeted regions based on factors like existing fodder deficits and the number of livestock in an area.
That's smart because you really want to know where this technology would have the most impact.
Exactly. They even identified the top districts for each type of livestock.
So you could really drill down and see where the opportunities are.
Exactly. And they didn't stop there. They also emphasized the importance of engaging women's self-help groups and dairy cooperatives.
Well, that's interesting because we were just talking about the impact on small dairy farmers.
Right, making sure those benefits reach those who need them most.
Right.
So now we have a pretty good grasp of the problem and the potential solution, but how do you actually go about implementing this on a large scale?
Yeah.
That's where Shunya Agritech comes in with their GeoSmart GLC strategy.
Okay, what are GeoSmart GLCs?
Well, these are growth and logistics centers, and they basically act as hubs for hydroponic fodder production and distribution.
Makes sense.
But the really cool thing is how they figure out where to put these centers.
Okay.
They don't just, pick any random spot. They actually analyze 10 layers of data.
10 layers. That's a lot.
It's not just about finding empty land. It's about finding the absolute perfect spot to maximize efficiency and impact.
Okay, so what kind of data are we talking about here?
Well, they look at demographics and technology acceptance in a particular area. They want to make sure that people are actually open to using this technology.
Yeah.
Then they look at livestock density and existing dairy networks to gauge demand and figure out how to distribute the fodder.
So it's really tailored to each location.
Exactly, and it doesn't stop there. They consider climate data to ensure year-round production,
Smart.
water and energy resources to guarantee a stable supply, and then land and transportation logistics for smooth operations.
Oh, wow. They really think of everything.
They do. Even competition, existing digital infrastructure, government policies, and even sustainability risks.
It's a holistic approach.
It is, and by taking this very thorough, multifaceted approach, Shunya's GeoSmart GLCs aim to tackle fodder stress on 3 fronts.
Okay.
Maximizing resource efficiency, enhancing accessibility and affordability for farmers, and then fostering sustainable growth through job creation and increased productivity.
Wow. It really does seem like they're trying to address both the immediate need for fodder and then also the long-term goal of, having a more resilient agricultural sector.
Exactly.
This is really interesting stuff.
Now that we have a good grasp of the market landscape and Shunya's innovative strategy, I'm curious about how to turn all this potential into a successful business.
Yeah, me too.
More on that in part 2.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've seen this huge potential for hydroponic fodder, and we've seen how companies like Shunya Agritech are using these really interesting strategies to make it all happen.
Right.
But now the question is, how do you actually turn this potential into a thriving business?
Yeah. How do you actually make money doing this?
Exactly.
Well, CEW's report outlines 2 main paths.
Okay.
You've got direct equipment sales,
Okay.
and then what they call fodder as a service.
Okay, so direct sales, you're basically selling the hydroponic units themselves to a farmer or an entrepreneur who would then produce their own fodder.
Exactly. And that model has the allure of potentially higher profit margins for the seller.
Right.
But it really hinges on convincing individual buyers to invest in the technology up front.
Right, and I imagine that could be a challenge, especially for smaller farmers, who might not have a ton of extra capital just lying around.
Yeah, and it's not just the upfront cost. Direct sales also rely on having, really robust sales and marketing efforts to reach a broad audience and to really demonstrate that value proposition.
And it's not a one-size-fits-all market either, right?
Yeah.
You'd need to tailor those messages to different regions and demographics, taking into account different farming practices, cultural nuances.
Definitely. And CEEW actually stresses the importance of using vernacular languages in their marketing materials so you can really connect with these diverse audiences.
Wow, that's a good point.
And they also highlight the need for strong financing partnerships to help farmers overcome that initial investment hurdle.
So it sounds like direct sales definitely has the potential for high rewards, but also comes with its fair share of challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
What about fodder as a service? How does that work?
So think of it like a subscription service for fresh fodder.
Interesting.
So an entrepreneur sets up a hydroponic unit, and they basically become a local supplier delivering that green fodder directly to livestock farmers.
Okay, so it kind of takes the burden off of the farmer to actually manage the hydroponic production.
Exactly.
They just get a consistent supply of that high-quality fodder without having to actually run the whole operation themselves.
Yep. And this model requires a higher initial investment from the entrepreneur
Okay.
because they need land, they need equipment, they need staffing.
Right.
But it offers the potential for, a more stable and predictable revenue stream over time.
And it seems like it could be a really great way to boost the local economy too, right? Creating jobs, keeping those profits within the community.
Absolutely. But like any business model, it comes with its own set of challenges.
Of course, what are some of those challenges?
So some things to think about would be like ensuring that you have a consistent supply of inputs for the hydroponic units, like seeds and nutrients.
Right.
And then also being able to manage potential fluctuations in demand for the fodder.
Right, because what happens if it's a good monsoon season and farmers can get their fodder, the traditional way? Are they still going to want to pay for the subscription?
Exactly. So it's a real balancing act.
Right.
The entrepreneur needs to find that sweet spot where the price is attractive to the farmers, but they can also ensure that their business is profitable.
Right. So CEEW suggested maybe tailoring those subscription models to local conditions, taking into account things like rainfall patterns and existing fodder availability.
Right.
And they also propose a pay-as-you-go model as kind of an alternative,
Interesting.
which offers a little bit more flexibility to the farmers, but puts more emphasis on managing demand fluctuations for the entrepreneur.
It's really about finding what works best for each specific market.
Exactly. Now, what about the role of the government in all of this? Can policy play a part in supporting the growth of hydroponic fodder in India?
Absolutely. CEEW's report highlighted some existing government schemes that could be really valuable resources for hydroponic fodder entrepreneurs.
Like what?
We touched on a couple earlier, like the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund
Right.
and then the Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. Those could provide crucial funding for entrepreneurs who are just starting out.
Right. Those seem like they would be really helpful, but Shunya Agritech's white paper kind of takes it a step further.
Oh, yeah.
They emphasize the importance of actually collaborating with state governments.
Okay, so they're not just waiting for, handouts. They're being proactive and seeking out these partnerships to really create an environment where this technology can thrive.
Exactly. And remember, that data-driven approach they use for their GeoSmart GLCs,
Right, with the 10 layers of data.
that's actually a really powerful tool for advocating for this technology.
So,
Well, they can go to the state governments and show them the data, demonstrate the tangible benefits of hydroponic fodder.
Oh, I see.
Show how it aligns with existing policy goals like rural development, water conservation, increased agricultural productivity.
it's a win-win.
Exactly. The government gets closer to achieving their policy objectives, and the entrepreneurs get the support that they need to build successful businesses.
Makes sense.
Now let's talk about something that I find really exciting, which is the potential for hydroponic fodder to transform communities beyond just the immediate economic benefits.
Right, those ripple effects.
Exactly. So, for example, each GeoSmart GLC has the potential to create, numerous jobs in rural areas where employment opportunities might be limited.
Right, and it's not just about creating jobs, it's about creating these sustainable livelihoods
Mhm.
that are less vulnerable to, the whims of weather and climate change.
Absolutely. And the benefits go even beyond job creation.
Yeah.
Because high-quality hydroponic fodder means healthier livestock,
Right.
which translates to higher milk yields and potentially better quality meat.
Yeah.
The farmers see a boost in their income, and then the region as a whole benefits from a more secure and nutritious food supply.
And we can't forget about the environmental benefits, too.
Right.
The reduced water consumption and land usage associated with hydroponic fodder. Those are major wins in a country that's grappling with water scarcity and deforestation.
It's incredible how, one innovation can have such far-reaching impact.
Right. It
Right.
really touches everything from individual livelihoods to the health of the planet.
Exactly. It's amazing, and we've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty of the different business models to these broader social and environmental implications of this technology, but there's still more to explore.
Oh, definitely. In the final part, we'll dive into some specific policies that could be real game changers for these hydroponic fodder entrepreneurs, and then leave you with some questions to ponder.
Sounds good. Stay tuned.
Hmm.
All right, so we've talked about the potential of hydroponic fodder, beef myth models, and now I'm curious about the policy landscape.
Yeah, what role does policy play in all of this? Right, are there specific policies that could really help or hinder the growth of this industry in India?
Definitely. And CEW's report actually highlights some existing government schemes that could be really beneficial for these entrepreneurs.
Okay, like what?
So one that's really interesting is the Credit Guarantee Scheme.
Okay.
It's run by the Government of India and SIDB.
What's SIDB?
SIDB is the Small Industries Development Bank of India, and this scheme is specifically focused on women entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, it provides collateral-free loans up to a certain limit.
So that removes a big barrier to entry.
Exactly, especially for women who might not have access to those traditional financing options.
Yeah, that's a huge help. And, we were talking earlier about how important it is to empower women in these rural communities.
Right.
This seems like a really great way to do that.
It really does level the playing field, and
Yeah.
it opens up opportunities for women to, kind of become leaders in this industry.
Now, you mentioned there was another scheme that caught your eye.
Yeah, the Venture Capital Scheme for Agribusiness Development,
Okay.
which is run by the Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium, or SFAC.
Catchy acronym.
Yeah, and this one provides interest-free venture capital in the form of soft loans
Okay.
to projects in agriculture and allied sectors, including dairy.
So this one is specifically aimed at attracting those private investments into solutions like hydroponic fodder.
Exactly. It's about fostering that entrepreneurial ecosystem
Yeah.
and giving them the financial resources to really, drive that innovation.
Now, CEW also mentioned some broader schemes that could also be helpful, right?
Yeah, definitely things like the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund
Right.
and the Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme. Those can definitely provide support in terms of funding and resources.
Okay, now what about the marketing side of things? Are there any initiatives that could help entrepreneurs get the word out about hydroponic fodder?
Actually, yeah, CEW points to the Marketing Promotion Scheme
Okay.
by the Ministry of MSME. So this scheme provides financial assistance to micro, small, and medium enterprises
Okay.
to help them participate in international exhibitions and trade fairs.
So they can really showcase their solutions on a global stage.
Exactly, potentially attracting investors and partners from all over the world.
That's awesome. And then for those who are focused on the domestic market, what did they suggest?
So there's the Formation and Promotion of 10,000 FPOs scheme.
Okay, a lot of acronyms.
I know. And this one supports the creation of farmer-producer organizations.
Now, how would that help?
Well, these FPOs can actually be really valuable allies for these entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They can help with collective marketing distribution and even negotiating better prices for inputs.
So it's like building a more connected ecosystem around hydroponic fodder.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Now, even with all of this government support, there have to be some challenges, right?
Oh, definitely. CEW acknowledges that awareness about hydroponic fodder, particularly in those rural communities, is still a major hurdle.
Yeah, it's a relatively new technology, right? So it takes time.
It does. And, having access to reliable information is crucial for adoption.
Of course. What else?
Standardization and quality control are really important as more and more entrepreneurs kind of enter this market. Making sure that the hydroponic fodder is meeting certain quality standards is key.
Yeah, you have to build trust with the farmers.
Exactly. And then one final thing to keep in mind, policies are constantly evolving.
So don't get too comfortable.
Exactly. Stay informed about any new initiatives or changes that might affect your business.
Right. So it's not just about knowing the current landscape. It's about being proactive and advocating for policies that are going to support this industry, down the road.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave you with a question.
Okay, hit me.
Considering everything we've talked about, the benefits, the challenges, how do you see hydroponic fodder shaping the future of India's dairy and agriculture sectors?
It really is fascinating to think about it. We've gone from the challenges of India's fodder shortage to these really innovative solutions and the potential impact, for people and the planet.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future of hydroponic fodder in India.
Me too.
And if any of this has piqued your interest, we encourage you to learn more about these hydroponic fodder initiatives in your own region.
Yeah.
You might be surprised what you find.
You never know.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.